The Lion roars, and it will be roaring in Beaver Stadium this Saturday as Penn State opens the 2025 campaign against Nevada. Andrew Kalista, Frank Bodani, the York Daily Record, and Mike Gross, the Gross Rational Product, here to take you through our season preview and week one for the Nittany Lions here on the BlueWhite Tailgate podcast. Gentlemen, jumping right into it. Penn State versus Nevada to kick off this season. Our season preview, though, we have to get through it. Frank, we'll start with you as the longest tenured beat writer on this show. How do you see this year playing out for the Nittany Lions?
I think they win on Saturday to start off, Andrew.
Bold prediction. Bold.
Three wins in a row to get warmed up. I think they exercise some demons with the big games. I think they're better than Oregon. I think they could actually win that one handily. And I think they will. I know I keep saying this at least every other year. I think they're going to beat Ohio State during the regular season. The thing for me is I think they can be better than every team they play in the schedule, and we've talked about it before because of their foundational pieces, right? But winning every single game in this day and age, I think is just really, really difficult. It's hard for me to predict any team, especially after you see like Ohio State last year. They win the national title with all their talent. They lost 2 games. It's hard for me to predict any team to go undefeated. So I'm going to say Penn State 11-1 in the regular season. I think they finally actually lose a game where they're going to be the favorite. And that doesn't often happen under James Franklin. But I think something's got to trip them up, but just once. And I think they take that. I'm a believer in where this team can go.
Ohio State not only lost 2 games, they were fourth in the Big Ten. They weren't in the Big Ten championship game, and they won the Natty. It is. When you look at the schedule, you almost like trying to guess which one they're going to slip up in, because as you said, Frank, they might be the best team on their schedule. If they're reasonably healthy, we're going to be talking about playoffs, and we're going to be talking about contention for the conference and contention for the Natty all year.
I'm super high on the team, and a lot of people would say, well, you're a negative Nancy. You always had Penn State 9-3, 8-4. I was always saying they'd lose an extra game they shouldn't lose. Last year, I changed that up and had them beating Ohio State and going 11-1 in the regular season. I have them going undefeated in the regular season. I really do. I said in the weeks prior, I'm scared of that Michigan State game because it goes Ohio State, Indiana, Michigan State, Nebraska, Rutgers to close the year. And I just think that that's kind of a wear and tear, especially where the Ohio State is, because that's Ohio State's right after the bye. I got Penn State 12-0 during the regular season. I do have them losing in the Big Ten championship game. And that's because it's hard to beat a team twice. Who are they going to be playing in the Big Ten championship game? Most likely an Ohio State, most likely an Oregon if Ohio State slips up somewhere. So beating a team twice is very difficult. I have them going 12-0 in the regular season and being a number 4 seed in the college football playoff. But we all know that's a crapshoot, and you really can't get into predictions on that. I also want to mention, as I forgot to in the intro, we have former Penn State linebacker and former NFL vet Nathan Stupar joining us later on in the show for an in-depth interview that goes very deep, talking mental health, also talking this year's Nittany Lions, among other things, and the great linebacker play at Penn State as we rank the best linebackers of all time at Penn State, according to us 3. Frank, when you get to, that's important. It's according to us 3, not the definitive best linebacker at
right. Mine is the definitive, but go ahead.
Are you guys excited for the new stadium? Pat Kraft, we're 100% ready to go. The defense and offensive linemen are hitting pillars, walking up there, making sure it's all safe. Everything that's always built to code always ends up being 100% safe. There's never.
That's an excellent point, Andrew. It always ends up being 100%. Well, I'm not as excited about it as Pat Kraft is, based on the press conference the other day, because he's very.
Frank, this is new.
it's a little bit of an added dimension to the whole thing. Yeah.
And you don't have to sit up there. So what, how much does it affect you, Michael?
Very little. Very little. Except,
of course.
Except we're going to be sitting someplace else with a different perspective. Right. And we'll learn more about that.
It is the season opener, and I always go back to some of my favorite season opening, games. That Arizona game in 1999, Appalachian State. What ones do you have going back? Frank, do you have one? Penn State opened against USC a couple times. Doesn't have to be necessarily at home, but one of your favorite season openers. If you have your favorite one at home, by all means.
Well, the first game I ever covered in 94, I can't even believe I made it to the forlorn Metrodome. Actually made it there because I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember, and I was not involved in Penn State football. I remember sitting there. It was a nighttime game and watching Kajana Carter run through gaping holes for touchdowns and thinking, this might be pretty cool to watch, and then they won the first 15 games I covered. As far as though, get away from the outcome of the game, so the opening game against Miami with Adam Talaferro, that was probably the best atmosphere type night to start a season for Penn State to me. They're playing the team like the Hurricanes in Beaver Stadium at night and watching Adam come all the way back before that game. And now, granted, that was probably all the highlights happened before the game really started because.
Yeah, that's a good one. And we may have been watching the best team in the history of college football that night too.
There you go.
So that was great. I would say I'm going to pick one. I'm not even sure what year this was. It was 4 or 5 years ago when they played on the road at Wisconsin. Wisconsin ranked, I think, 10th or something like that. And that was one of those games that when we say it was a terrific game, went right down to the end. Penn State made big defensive plays at the end to win it. And it was one of those games that, in this perception of James Franklin that he can't win the big one, it's one of those games that because Penn State, it's almost like because Penn State won it, people don't count it as a big one. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, that was a really good football game, and they don't very often play really good football games against really good opponents on week one of the season.
That was a coming out party for Jaquan Brisker. I don't know if it was necessarily a coming out party, but I think he had 2 interceptions. Teague Brown was phenomenal in that game. And Penn State's first transfer portal hit along the defensive line from Temple. And I'm drawing a blank on his name. Great post-game interview.
Arnold
Ebiketie was, and he just talked about his dad and how his dad told him to go out there and, mess things up. And he did. That was a great game for him. Frank, by the way, your home opener, your first year on the beat was the USC game. That's what I thought you were going to go with. And I think Kajana Carter torched USC for 3 touchdowns in that game at Beaver Stadium. So you went Metrodome home to a beatdown of the Trojans, who was top 15 in the country at the time. Mentioned Jaquan Brisker. Do you guys have a breakout player for this year? And you can't name a wide receiver. That's cheating. That's cheating. So who is your breakout player for Penn State this year?
Well, I will go with Khalil Dinkins because I think he is a freakish athlete, a great talent. He's not going to be Tyler Warren, of course, but he's a guy that I think maybe is a little bit under the radar for a lot of people who if he stays healthy, is going to get drafted. He could be that 6th blocker when they just outnumber people on the line of scrimmage. I'll go with him. They have there's a lot of stars on this team. It's a lot to say somebody's under the radar because they have a lot of guys who are way above the radar. But I'll go with Dinkins.
Okay, so that's a very good point, and it's not as easy maybe this year. You look at linebacker. Amari Campbell isn't a young guy, but he's new to Penn State. So what is he going to do? He's going to be involved in the action, right? How well he plays. I think I'm more just intrigued to see how that works. Now, as far as my pick, I think I'll go, because I love cornerbacks, I'm going to go with Elliott Washington, because he looks like he's going to be the starter opposite A.J. Harris. And I think people may not want to throw at A.J. Harris right away. So I think Elliott Washington is going to get a lot of action. He led the team in pass breakups last year, even though he wasn't a starter. And he's the fastest, pound for pound, probably most powerful kid on the team. He's a tremendous athlete. So I think he's going to get early opportunities to make big plays. So,
and the one guy we ought to throw in here, because he is a true freshman, it's such a wild card factor from everything we're hearing. There's a lot of is Chaz Coleman at defensive end, who might be. I mean, maybe he's not ready yet, and maybe he's going to be this wild card thing that really blows up.
Well, I was saying at the position, I was going with Fisher. And I know he's been around, and it's just like, I feel like Penn State has a good track record of having a second guy come on. And we saw that last year with Denai Dennis Sutton. So I just think, Fisher is going to have a breakout year, and kind of Penn State needs him to have one of those breakout years, especially along the defensive line.
I definitely thought of him, but I had a little bit of pause because James said yesterday he's still getting over his injury.
Yeah,
and the surgery. He's still that. I was a little surprised to hear that, and that sort of gave me a little concern. Not concern, but I noticed that about him.
Long season, don't expect really with that to see him early on. And I think for Penn State to get to where they're going to go, they're going to have to need him to be there, especially as we've talked about the injury bug, throughout the whole off season. You guys just alluded to it. Chaz Coleman, freshman, he gets the green light, according to James Franklin's press conference on Monday. Also, cornerback Darius Dixon in the green group. And the thing that stuck out to me, guys, going through the press conference, was James saying that these guys were ready, emotionally and maturity level wise. And I think, James talks like that a lot, developmental wise, for guys in the off season. I thought for him to say that for a couple freshmen, I thought that stood out.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, you need young kids. You need a couple of freshmen to be able to step up in some form or fashion. Maybe what stood out so much is James saying this before the first game. Yeah. Because I don't think it's unusual. I mean, Darius Dixon, for example, highly talented kid. I mean, it's still amazing to me they got him from California, and he went to Mater Dei. So very well schooled program, right? I mean, he's going to be prepared. But I guess
the football program in the country.
Yeah, to have James talk them up before they ever play a game. And I think, and obviously Chaz Coleman's coming out of a little bit out of left field for people, right? Because he wasn't even he wasn't even recruited as a top pass rusher in high school, right? He did everything. So, I mean, but for Penn State to succeed, you're right. I think we talk about their All-Americans or stars, but they're going to need guys like these two and probably a good many redshirt freshmen, sophomores that haven't done a whole lot yet to be able to stand up this year at some points.
And another guy that James has mentioned a couple times, a true freshman, is this Kamaju. And I don't know if he's ready or not, but it's noteworthy, like you just said, Frank, it's noteworthy that he's talking these guys up. And it would be the ideal thing on the defensive line in particular. The ideal thing is to be able to run guys in and out of the game so you can wear people down. That is so big. And we know that they have two stars up front. Well, now let's see some of these other guys that can fill in and maybe give them that ability to just wear people down with athletes.
Well, here's the thing. They weren't able to get a defensive end in the transfer portal. They really could have used one even before we knew Max Granville was hurt, because even with Max, we're talking Denai Dennis Sutton and everybody else is inexperienced. And like you said, Andrew, they really need two pass rushers. The best Penn State defenses have had not just one great defensive end, they've had two, and they've had two the last few years. Well, we don't know who that second one is. I mean, we mentioned all these names. None of these names are guarantees to be big-time starters at that other side. So who they need somebody. Is it the old guy, Zariah Fisher? Can he stay healthy? Is it like a red shirt, like Jalen Harvey? Is it a true freshman? I mean, they got to figure it out. They haven't had to do that the past few years.
Jim Knowles is the guy tasked on the defensive side to figure that out. And there was talk about who was going to be the communicator. Jim Knowles is going to be up in the booth. He will be talking to the linebacker that has the green dot, whether that's Campbell or DeLuca. Mentioning linebackers, as a reminder, we have Nathan Stupar, former Penn State linebacker, coming up on the program as well to talk to things. The most interesting thing about James's Monday press conference, besides his ability to literally give you a complete roster rundown of the opponent, which always amazes me, whoever's prepping those notes for him, was the interaction between James and our own Frank Bodani on the hair thing. It never ceases to amaze me. Two people texted me. It was their first press conference they were ever on. They're like, does this happen every single week? Not every week, but James is obviously a big fan of Frank's haircut. Frank looking good since you got a little trim. But Frank, you had the question, and James went into it, and we've talked about it. We've asked Zach Mills about it, about what did Drew Aller have to do to get better coming into this year. Here's James Franklin on Drew Aller on where he's improved on during the offseason.
We're putting a ton on his plate. I think his probably greatest superpower is just how football smart he is, especially when you talk about protections, being able to, readjust our protections and put our offensive line in the best position to allow us to get our running back out as often as possible to stress the defense. So I see him getting better in all those areas, and I think he took another step. But
that translates to me exactly what Zach Mills was saying about you're not studying your tendencies going into your senior year. You're studying what the defenses did to you and trying to pick up on that for certain opponents. When James talking about adjusting protections, that was almost, to me, it sounded very similar to what Zach Mills was talking about. Am I wrong? Am I off base? You guys tell me.
This is a part of X and O football that I would be lying if I said I really understand. I've heard people talk about this all the time, and I have no doubt that it's really important. I remember, this is going to be a goofy reference, but I remember when Johnny Manziel did his sit down with John Gruden when they talk about, they watch film, and he asked him about this exact thing. How do you adjust protections and get your guys in the right spot without giving too much up? And whatever Manziel said, Gruden said, well, that's the best answer I've heard all day. That's the best thing I've heard you say all day. And I know it's an important thing. I don't really understand it. I don't understand it, but I do understand the importance of getting the protection. And also, as James said, getting the running, not having to devote the running back to just stand there and wait for a rusher. Let him get out and we can dump it to him. Let him get out and he can be in space. I think that is critically important. I couldn't, if I had a whiteboard back here, I couldn't draw it up and make any sense out of it, but I know it's a big deal.
Yeah. He's had 4 years to be able to learn how to process at the line of scrimmage and do it quickly and accurately. And I think this will show this year, right? It'll make other guys look good. Now, for me with Drew is that, we know that he can make so-called every throw that there is, maybe even every one in the NFL. I want to be able to see the offense that will actually help us show that more. And I think with those new receivers, you're hoping you get to see more of what he can do down the field, because we really haven't got a chance to see that on a regular basis at all in his career, which is almost a little astounding at this point. But I think he's got so many other weapons, but I want to see that this year. And I think that's also the next level for him.
Yeah, we all say, and we all say this because it's true, that he can make every throw. The arm talent is elite, I would say, even maybe by NFL standards, but we haven't actually seen him make every throw very often in game situations where he's blasting it down the field to a wide receiver. So that's the next frontier for sure.
to use all these weapons, you got to have the guys up front, the hog maulers. We've talked about it ad nauseum. 2 weeks ago, I asked Vega, I said, is there any craziness going on with the offensive line, maybe packages? He wasn't going to reveal anything, but he was like smiling, and you could tell he was kind of, hiding something. James Franklin kind of let the cat out of the bag. And I don't know what you guys think of this, but 6 offensive linemen in the game at a time, 7 offensive linemen in the game at a time. Here's the quote.
But I think we view us as having 7 starting offensive linemen where we'll probably use different packages to get those guys on the field.
7 offensive line. What year is this? 1920? Are we just lining them all up? Like, did he go to a press like a coaching convention with Harbaugh and Brett Bielema? Like the forward pass? At this point, just bring the fullback back. Put the fullback back in there.
We talk all the time about 11 personnel and 12 personnel. And what the hell is 7 offensive linemen? What is that personnel? That's pretty crazy. Pretty interesting. I thought I was a little surprised that TJ Shanahan was one of the 7 guys that he mentioned, which I guess makes sense. He's a veteran guy, transfer from Texas A&M. But I was trying to think maybe Javon Williams from Wyomissing would be that 7th guy, or maybe an 8th guy. But anyway, they've got a lot of depth up front, and it'll be interesting to see how they utilize it.
Yeah, if you've got them, use them. And Andy Kotelnicki has shown us already that he will use everything that even we cannot even imagine. So you got to see 7 offensive linemen sooner than later. Right?
I just think it's funny. Out of all those years about the fullback questions and now 7 offensive linemen, I'm joking on bringing back the fullback. Do what works. That's all I'm saying.
We're not going to bring back the fullback.
Frank, I also had a chance to talk to A.J. Harris, and I asked him flat out what makes him one of the best cornerbacks in the country, and I was really impressed with his answer.
I feel I have to prove that this year. I'm not really going to do too much talking now ahead of the season. I'm more so an action guy, so there's not really much to be said about that, and I plan to prove that throughout the season.
I mean, straight into the point, and then he went on about, this is why you play in the Big Ten, talking about going up against some of the best receivers in the country, Jeremiah Smith out at Ohio State being one of them. I mean, I love the humble answer, and you're high on them, and I know that. You love the DBs.
Yeah, they have had a pretty good stacked room the last couple of years, but I think this year it's that elite combination of more proven skill, experience to go with the talent. And I think, and he's a name, again, another, just like I mentioned, Amari Campbell, interesting to see how it works out. I really am still intrigued to see AJ Harris because he's nationally, he's pretty under the radar. I mean, people might see that he earned some recognition last year, but we haven't really seen him, so to speak, as a star. And so, I'm waiting with Jim Knowles, in a new defensive alignment, how this is going to work with that secondary, how it's going to look, how are these guys going to attack? Are they going to have one of the defensive backs? Who's going to be coming in on blitzes, like we've seen in the past? How's that going to change? Because they got tremendous athletes. They may have the fastest defensive back group in the country. If you consider Elliott Washington and King Mack and a Davian Collins, those are 3 of the fastest guys on the entire team, and they're in the same spot back there.
Yeah, you talk about Knowles and you talk about, a 4-2-5, whether it's an extra corner or an extra safety or a safety hybrid guy, somebody who's going to be a pass rusher maybe from that back group, as you said, Frank. And one of the things that Franklin told us yesterday, pretty straight out, was that that second safety spot is going to go to Antoine Belgrave Shorter, who over King Mack and maybe a couple other guys. And so maybe he's going to be that guy, because I think of Zakee Wheatley as more of a big play in the passing game guy, ball skill guy. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we're waiting to see. And maybe Zion Tracy's going to be the third corner with Washington and Harris. I mean, there's a lot of, we're going to have the binoculars working on Saturday quite a bit to just see who's in the game and what they're doing, especially on defense.
We go from talking DBs to talking linebackers as we bring in Nathan Stupar, former Penn State linebacker and NFL veteran, joins the Blue-White Tailgate podcast. Nathan, how's everything going?
Good. How about you guys?
Real good.
All good. All good. Football.
Better now that football season is here and you are our guest to kick off the season. Before we talk shop and before we talk football, Nathan, what are you doing? I know you are deeply involved in the State College community, a lot of philanthropy work, the State of Hope Foundation. Can you give us an insight on everything that you're involved in?
Yeah, right now, I mean, that's my sole focus. Mine is raising 4 little girls right now here in State College. Nothing too special. Excited for the football season to kick off. But besides the girls about to start school tomorrow and diving straight into State of Hope, we got some big things coming up and that we're excited about.
We normally rotate the questions, but since you're the father of 4 girls, my little girl who's 3 weeks old is up crying with my wife right now. What advice do you have for me as I'm just getting my feet wet and still trying to adjust some sleep schedules here?
Man, with girls, you got to be patient, man. Yelling does not work. Getting on their level and actually trying to articulate and discuss things with them instead of with boys that I know of, completely different emotionally. So girls, a little bit different emotions, I can tell you that.
All right, looking forward to it. All right, guys, I'm done. I got the most important question out of the way since I got some fatherly advice here.
Nate, we've been talking for a couple of weeks on here about coming up with our list of the top 10 linebackers and what Andrew alluded to there. And one of the things that has made it impossible for me is thinking about the different things that a linebacker has to do. I mean, in the old days, Dick Butkus would just line up right across from the quarterback and go downhill and chase the ball and kill people. And there's a lot more to it. What do you look at other than the obvious things of being able to find the ball and kill the ball, kill the ball carrier? What do you look at in a linebacker?
Oh, man, there's so much that goes into being a great linebacker. I mean, first of all, you have to have intelligence because usually you are, the head of the defense. You're calling the defense and you're making sure everyone's in the correct spots, right? You can visualize everything. You can see things before they happen and anticipate. And that's first and foremost. And secondly, you got to be quick thinking on your feet and very good at being reactive. And because right now, if you don't run a 4.5 as a linebacker in the league, you have a tough chance of playing. I mean, I ran a 4.6 and I thought I was fast, but these guys are running like sub 4.5s now. So then, goes without question, you got to be tough. The league is a grueling, it's a competitive, insane place to play. And if you're not physically and mentally tough, it'll chew you and spit you out. And that's why I appreciate Penn State for everything that I've gone through. Even though I didn't have a successful Penn State story or career at Penn State, it helped me become mentally tough with everything I went through, if you know my story. And I wasn't, the golden child. I wasn't promoted. I wasn't like, the next LeVar Arrington, the Prince Lesney. I was some kid from State College just trying to make it, right? And just trying to make a name for myself. And I earned everything that I put into it. And I carved out an 8-year career. And it was fun watching, the linebackers before me go in the league and actually going and playing with them and then seeing some younger guys that I would come back, see go into the league. So it was really fun seeing all the different type of linebackers that went through Penn State develop in the league.
Nate, can you talk about your time at Penn State being a linebacker? How has that resonated with you now? We're talking 14 years later.
Yeah, man. My career wasn't easy. I was a defensive end who converted to a linebacker from high school in Penn State. And I'm like, no better place to learn under Coach Van der Linden when he was pumping out, Dan Connors, Poplas Lesney, Navarro Bowman, Josh Halls, and the list continues to go on, right? Every single year. And So it was a struggle at first because just the visual with the eyes of just being off the ball and learning to hit people, 2 or 3 seconds after the play instead of immediate contact. So that was tough for me, and just learning how to read. So it transitioned into my life because I was able to learn very, very quickly and to adapt very, very quickly. And that helped me prolong my career because I played Mike, Sam, and Will literally all in the same season, especially with the second year with the Falcons with Dan Quinn. 3 days before starting against the Giants, my linebacker coach was like, "Hey, you're starting at Sam this week. I forgot to tell you." And I look back at him. I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "You good?" I'm like, "Yep." I didn't play Sam maybe one time in OTAs. So like he threw me into position that like I'd never played, but I played and started there for probably 4 or 5 weeks. Then a couple of weeks later, we had another injury, and I went and played Mike. Then I played Will later in the season. It just, the interchangeability helped me prolong my career. And Penn State always pride with knowing defenses and inside and out, and that helped me a lot because I was able to know everything about the defense. There was a specific play when I was with the Falcons, like playing against the Redskins at the time against Kirk Cousins. I looked to my left. I'm like, where's my curl flat defender, the safety? He's not there. Like, we were down a man. And Kirk Cousins saw it. He hiked it quick, and I just reacted. I sprinted out there to cover for the guy, and I knocked the ball down. I jammed my finger really, really good, but I defended. I'm like, where are you? Like, where are you? So, like, just like little things like that can change the course of a game.
Nate, you've called yourself a grinder. Andrew Clay, former Penn State beat reporter, now covering the Steelers from up in State College, did a wonderful story on you last year or two years ago. And he's called yourself a grinder. And in the story, you mentioned how you gave up football for a time, for about 2 hours. You were done with it, then came back. In today's world, with the transfer portal open and NIL, and I know you mentioned about you're grateful for how Penn State prepped you for the league. In today's world, can you put yourself in those shoes and maybe go back? Like, would you have still stayed at Penn State during that? And what are kids missing out on when they hop into the portal when things aren't going exactly the way they planned?
Yeah, there's a lot there in that question, man.
I know that's a loaded one.
We could talk all week with that question. It's all about perspective, man. There's former NFL players, who played a lot earlier and like, wait, what's your retirement look like? You know what I mean? So like, it's all perspective. So like, I have no hate or no jealousy of the guys. Like, it needed to happen. Like, all the colleges were reaping off of, our hard-earned labor, and we really reaped nothing. And so I agree with how it's moving and where it's going towards. And with me particularly, I don't know if I would have lasted as long as I did in the league if I was able to transfer or be paid $1 million a year to be a linebacker at Penn State. You know what I mean? I would have a lot more money if I did both and lasted 8 years, but to be able to transfer and kind of dilute your story of taking easier roads when you have to compete for a starting job. Like, I had to compete every single year, and I basically lost every single year, but it made me so much stronger and sharper as a linebacker. And as soon as I got to the league, I'm not saying it was easy, but I had the tools and I had the mindset that a lot of people didn't have coming from different colleges. Like, Penn State linebackers knew how to grind, blue collar, we did the things the right way, and we knew how to compete and earn our spot, So it definitely helped me in the long run.
You just brought up something that I had not thought of before, which is that playing in the NFL, it's such a big deal in terms of your personal future to stay in the league as long as you can and get the pension and get the benefits and all of that kind of stuff, which maybe current college players who are making 7 figures to play college football may not think about that in those terms as much. Talk a little bit about, just for people who don't know, what it means to stay in the league as long as you can and how you benefit from that, for the rest of your life?
Once you get past 3 years, you get pension, and every year after that, it adds towards all your 401k, your cap plan, your annuity, and your pension, right? And so the longer you play, the more money you get into your retirement accounts, right? So that's a plus. Then obviously the longer you play, your salary goes up. And over the long run, I mean, it might be a little bit different now, but when I was playing, the first 4 years, I was making good money, but take 50% of it and delete it, and then you have 2 houses renting, you have to pay agent fees, then traveling back and forth and working out and eating right. Then you have a kid. That money doesn't go a lot further than you think. Now you're doing well, but it's not what people think you're doing. And especially as a linebacker, the average is 2.8 years. No wonder players, go bankrupt in the first 5 years because they really haven't really made money. Then you're still trying a year or two to stay in the league and wasting money not having a job. You know what I mean? So money goes really quick. So the goal is always to get to your second contract. And that's what I was able to, obtain with the Saints, signing a 3-year, $5 million contract. And now I didn't play, the last year of that deal. So that's inflated. But it sets you up pretty well when you're retired.
Nate, how about the linebackers you played with at Penn State? How do you think they would transition to football at Penn State right now? Would those guys be the same players? How do you think that would work in this day and age at Penn State?
I don't know. You have to ask them. I don't know their mindsets. I saw Navarro Bowman earlier this year at the Combine, and we had a fantastic time because I played behind Navarro at Penn State and we had some funny stories going back and forth. And, but yeah,
I mean, skill wise, just their talents, how would that, because you don't even see 3 linebackers on the field a lot of times now in college.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing in the NFL. It's usually nickel or dime, especially with what the offense is showing you tendencies wise depending on what team you're playing. But I wouldn't think they would have any issues. I mean, if anything, I know them as NFL linebackers. So you know what I mean? I played behind Navarro Bowman. I've seen him pick it off and run it back against Green Bay for touchdowns. And I've seen him intercept Kaepernick 5 yards from the line of scrimmage and throwing it back to his face in practice. You know what I mean? And I played behind Paul Pizzazzi when I was with the Jaguars. I played with these guys. I played against Mike Hall in London when he was with Miami. So these guys wouldn't have an issue competing at all. I mean, they would thrive.
So how about this year's team? Do you have some thoughts on the defense, the linebackers, the team as a whole? I mean, you live there, so I'm thinking you're in some ways pretty close, right?
I'm excited. I'm excited, man. That's all I can say. I mean, I think we're going to do really well. I think Rojas is going to have a better year than last year. I think he knows it, but he had a little down year last year. I mean, he had some splash plays, but he has a lot more in the tank that he showed last year. So I think he's going to take a huge step forward. And another guy I'm huge and high on is my boy DeLuca. Dom, if you're watching, I'm proud of you and everything you faced. I mean, he reminds me of grinding through and blue collar, and he's so smart. And the thing about him is you don't think he's athletic until he just blows your mind, right? I mean, he makes plays where I'm just man, how'd he do that? And so those two are, I wish Kobe King would have stayed. I mean, that's my only pet peeve, but I understand what he's trying to chase, going to the league and everything like that. I'm hoping best for him. I think I just saw him have a pass breakup 2 preseason games ago, but praying, success over him with LBU and everything. So I think the defense, as always, is going to fly around. I think you're going to see a lot more defenses that we're going to bring in. I'm really pumped for Alar. He actually came to my golf tournament, had a fantastic time for my foundation. And from 2 seasons ago to from this past season, he grew tremendous. Like I was kind of skeptical, but as a leader, it clicked. It really clicked, and it was really fun to see that. And then we brought some wide receivers in, and I think I just read that all 3 portal transfers are actually like the starting wide receivers now, so that's exciting. So yeah, I mean, if it's this year or bust, you know what I mean? So no excuses. Go out there and play like champions is all I gotta say. Enough talking.
Nathan, going off of Frank's question about those guys that you played against and played with in the league and how they would play at Penn State, when you came to Penn State as a freshman, Dan Connor was the senior captain of the defense. Am I correct?
Yep.
So now he's coaching the linebackers, and I kind of asked Dan, how does he compare himself today to when he was a freshman arriving at Penn State? And he said to me, he's like, oh, that's kind of a loaded question. And, you know, he said we could really talk a long time on that one, but he answered about his maturity level and developing under Coach Vanderlyn. So I'll ask you, what was he like as a senior captain and kind of like a coach mentor to you coming in as a freshman? And how is that going to translate to him coaching linebackers now at the Division I level?
I mean, this is a long time ago, and I was there for maybe 1 year with him. But I can remember he was a guy who led by example. You know what I mean? He wasn't like a rah kind of guy or something like that, like outspoken, kind of like a Sean Lee or something like that. Sean Lee was a crazy dude, you know, when I played. I remember I was trying to block him on punt, and he just took his right hand and just swatted me in the face. And I'm like, hey, that's illegal. You know what I mean? But like in practice, as a freshman, I ain't getting anything from that. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just let him go next time. You know, I don't want to get swatted in the – no, he hit me in the side of the head. I'm like, all right, what did I get myself into? But Dan, just like a lot of the linebackers, when you go in there, you develop and you mature so much. And Dan Connor, I've been around him even when he wasn't a linebacker coach. When I was cut from the Giants, I would be in there watching defensive film with them and just kind of going through that process when Coach Pry was there. He's a guy who just like walks into the room, and he has that, you know, he has that persona where people are going to listen, right? And he has the expertise, and he has the mentality that he's going to bring LBU, continue that tradition. And I have no question Dan's going to crush it. I'm excited to see the linebacker play this year.
Nate, Vanderlyn is a guy that I think a lot of people maybe have kind of forgotten about, who was he was impressive dealing with us to the extent that he was allowed to deal with us. But you know, I just have a feeling that he was kind of on the low profile kind of a genius position coach. Tell us a little bit about what he brought to the table.
Coach Vandy, he was so technically sound, and he knew perfection when he saw it. And that was tough for me, because for how Penn State handled me, anytime I made a mistake, they would pull me. So it was really hard for me to play free as a player when you're worried about a mistake, because you're going to make mistakes, but having the fear of being pulled and not playing really screws with you. And so I had a professionalism mentality, which is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing in real life. You know, chasing perfectionism, not good for a family, trust me. But it really screwed with me, but it also helped me be a very good linebacker, because I was so technically sound that we went to the league, and not a lot of linebackers were. Like, I knew to use my hands. Like, these were my tools. And a lot of people coming from different schools were just like going this, and didn't know how to get off blocks. And like, I knew I was so good at special teams because these were my weapons, and I knew how to use them because of what I learned under Vanderlyn. So his tools, even though, you know, I didn't have the greatest career or butted heads with him and the coaching staff at some points, you know, throughout my career, my foundation was very, very strong and technically sound.
Wait, you on special teams, you're a special teams ace. You get credit for 2 punt blocks in one season. Don't know another Penn Stater that has that in the modern era. You actually had 3 because Oregon State, you sack a punter for 9-yard loss. I count that as a block. I don't care what a stat she says. What makes a person stand out on special teams, and how tough is it? Because they're not getting a lot of practice time to perfect that craft. So what does it take? Because in this year, it could come down to Penn State making a special teams play to win a national championship.
It comes down to this, the heart, because a lot of people, they think special teams and they're just like, oh, that's for whoever, you know what I mean? Not the starters, you know what I mean? But when I came from State College going in, I'm like, okay, I'm obviously not going to be a straight starter. So I'm like, I'm going to kill it at special teams. My name is going to be special teams. Then I'll try to get into that starting role my last 2 seasons or something at Penn State. And so he was going all according to plan, did well as special teams and crushed it. You know, I was the best special team player at Penn State, at least in my own head, right? A little biased. But then my senior year, you know, like I didn't win the starting job, and I wasn't even playing special teams. I came back from my 5th year, and I was begging them to put me on special teams, and they wouldn't. And I don't know what was going on or behind the scenes or whatever, but it just felt like the cards were just stacked against me. And then, you know, game 4, I forget who we were playing, Eastern Michigan maybe, Monty tears his ACL again, and I go back into the starting role and took advantage of like the last 8 or 9 games, and I ended up going to the combine and getting drafted. So yeah.
So Nate, crazier dude to play with, Mike Mowdy or Sean Lee?
Sean Lee. Sean Lee is, I don't know where he's at now, but maybe Pittsburgh, I forget. But there's no one crazier than Sean. I've seen Sean, I think my rookie year, they did like an ISO on the goal line, ran into Sean. Sean crushed the fullback, threw him out of the way, tackled the running back, stripped the ball out of the running back's hand, then recovered it on the goal line. And I'm just like, is that what they expect of me? I'm like, holy crap. And, you know, you have Sean Lee stories. And, but yeah, he's foremost the craziest guy. I mean, he plays so reckless. I mean, just watch him for the Cowboys for so long. Like, he plays so reckless that I didn't even know how to like perceive it.
Nate, I wanted to do a 5 fast questions with you to end it. Frank actually took my first one. I was going to ask you the craziest Penn State linebacker that you know of. So we'll take that as Sean Lee. The best hangout that you experienced in State College, what place?
The best hangout?
Yeah.
I mean, now it's Champs downtown.
Okay, we'll go with Champs. Your favorite beat writer, if you had one, while you were at Penn State?
Oh my gosh, what? I couldn't tell you my college teacher.
I just wanted to know if you guys are keeping track of asking questions.
It's you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Loaded question.
Thank you. That was a loaded question. You brought this one up. This one I just came up with. Drew Aller, better golfer or quarterback?
I would say quarterback. I don't really see in golf.
All right. And something that we could do a whole 1-hour podcast on its own. You have probably, or maybe not if the best, but one of the best athletic family histories ever at Penn State. So who is the best athlete in your family?
The best athlete in my family?
Yes.
Me.
Okay.
I was hoping you were going to say that, because that's got to be the truth.
I'm trying to be humble, but I also am.
And just so everybody knows, there's a Super Bowl winning quarterback in your family.
Well, Jeff, my uncle Jeff, he actually did, what did he do? He had a special teams tackle, a block punt, and a catch in an NFL game before he even threw a pass in an NFL game.
Man, that's some strong trivia.
So I had my question. Uncle Jeff, you're the best athlete.
There you go.
Thanks for paving the way.
Nathan Stupar joining us here on the Blue White Tailgate podcast. Nate, thank you so much. And folks, make sure if you don't know about it, make sure you do know about it. Look into it. The State of Hope Foundation. Nathan continues to do great things up in State College. Nathan, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nate.
Good boys.
Once again, I want to thank Nathan for his time. Make sure you check out the State of Hope Foundation up in State College. Guys, let's get into ranking it. Top Penn State linebackers of all time. I mean, this could be an hour-long show, and debate itself probably would be more colorful with some adult sodas. We'll check in on the email bag before we get to ranking the linebackers. From C in Hoboken, emailing in the show once again. Guys, I'm starting to wonder if there are drugs being used on this podcast. Regarding Frank's column, Trace McSorley higher than Puz on the all-time list? 3 question marks. Puz in some LBU mock drafts as low as number 7. Multiple question marks. That is definitely a shot at me. Let's get this top 10 linebacker U podcast on the docket soon from C in Hoboken. So C, don't wait any longer. Here we go with our, not Mount Rushmore, our top 10 Penn State linebackers of all time. Guys, I feel like I should go last because I don't want to distract you guys. So who wants to lead off with the top linebackers for them all time at Penn State?
Okay. Well, I can go. I'm going to start off my list. I'm pretty good with the top half. Okay. So I'm going a little more recency bias with Paul Posluszny over some of the greats. And I mean, if, you know, 2-time All-American, College Football Hall of Famer, right? Twice he was named the Defensive Player of the Year. So he has all the accolades that anybody has ever had. No one has more accolades at linebacker at Penn State than Paul Posluszny. And from watching him, because I didn't get to see some of the old guys, you know, he did it all. So I got to go with the 3 Hall of Famers up top. So there's Paul, and then you got Jack Ham, another College Football Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Are we just judging on what they did at Penn State? Correct or no?
If you want to, you can take in any account because it's such a unique position and the game has changed so much from Jack Ham changing the outside linebacker position. So take in whatever you want to account.
If we're going just on Penn State careers, then it's Paul for me, Jack Ham, and then Shane Conlon, the 3 College Football Hall of Famers. If we're not going that, then Jack Ham's number 1 because he's also in the Pro Football Hall of Fame for what he did as maybe one of the best pass defensive linebackers of all time in the NFL. Okay, those are my 3 guys. Then I think it gets really difficult because to me, the problem here is that you have great linebackers and then you have almost, I'd say, a separate category of tremendous athletes who played linebacker who maybe for one reason or another didn't get their whole careers rolling. Or stay the longer. So I'm going to go with the all-around linebackers, Dan Connor, okay, and then the athletes, LeVar, and then Micah. Denny Onkotz, we forgot. We kind of could forget about him. He's a 2-time All-American, right? But do you put Denny Onkotz over LeVar Arrington? Maybe he was a better skilled linebacker, but that's really difficult to do. So I don't know if I even named 10, but that's my tops.
Okay. I have Shane Conlon, number 1, which might be a little bit of a surprise. I have Paz, number 2. I have Jack Ham, number 3. Micah Parsons, LeVar Arrington, Navarro Bowman, Dennis Onkotz, Sean Lee, who, if he had been healthy, would rank higher, maybe a lot higher, healthier. Dan Connor, and number 10, Brandon Short. And I want to point out, first of all, this is impossible to do, but some of the guys that we're leaving off here that I imagine we're all going to leave off here. I mean, a guy like Greg Buttle back in the day was a first-team All-American. A guy like Mike Hull was a great college player. And there's a guy that some people may not even remember, Lance Mell, was an All-American and played in the Pro Bowl. And some people might not have him in their top 15. It tells you something about the tradition at this position. At Penn.
Mike, tell me why you have Dan Connor as low as you do on your list. What was your I'm just curious what your thought.
I don't think Dan Connor played the pass very well.
Really? Okay.
So I mean, very well. I shouldn't say. To me, that was a relative weakness, whereas it was not a weakness of a guy like Ham. You know.
Right.
Also, guys, not on the list. This is what I have written in my margins here. Andre Collins was a phenomenal linebacker. Mike Motti, great linebacker. Abdul Carter, for obvious reasons, but
he's a tough case.
It's a tough one because the edge position has now become a thing. Greg Buttle, Charlie Zapiak was a center, played linebacker for 1 year. He was an All-American at Penn State. Matt Millen, 4-time Super Bowl champion as a linebacker in the NFL. Not on the list. And obviously I did not have Lance Mel written in my margins, Mike, but that is a great call. Guys that I had number 1 on my list at some point when I was drafting this. I had Jack Ham at 1, Puz at 1, Lee at 1, Shane Conlon at 1, Navarro Bowman at one point I had at 1, and LeVar I had at 1 at one point. So the list I finalized was Jack Ham at number 1, just because I can't take away from the Pro Football Hall of Fame and why he doesn't have accolades at Penn State. You have to remember, for me, in that era, a lot of those accolades didn't exist outside of the All-American list, but there weren't a lot of the trophies to be handed out. Plus his resume, Frank, you covered it. It speaks for itself, everything he's done. Sean Lee, I have at number 3, just because of the animal that he was. Maybe I'm putting a little NFL bias in there. I can't get over it. I know he was dinged at some place. The play he made in the Outback Bowl after he got his jockstrap taken from him by Foster, and then comes back with the punch out. Then I go with Shane Conlon. I know I probably get ripped for that. Navarro Bowman I have at number 5, followed by LeVar, who is by far the best athlete on this list. Only 2 years at Penn State. Then Micah, Dennis Onkons I have at number 8, Dan Connor at 9, and Brandon Short I have at 10. Any of those guys, 1 through 9, I literally think you could make a valid argument.
It's really hard to do. And that's why I asked that question to Nate about what does he look at in a linebacker, because I think there's a lot of linebackers who were pretty good at play downhill, play the run, chase the ball, tackle the guy. And there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
I'm looking at my other list where I have LeVar at number 1. On that list, I have Mike Hall at number 8, and I have Terry Killens at number 9. Another guy, Gerald Hodges, not on the list either. Pretty solid linebacker, who also returned punts like Dennis Onkons, though his 1 punt return against Ohio, not as great as Dennis Onkons.
That was a Bill O'Brien.
Micah and LeVar were arguably the 2 best athletes who ever played linebacker at Penn State. LeVar's even said to me that he doesn't believe he was the best linebacker at Penn State, because being the greatest athlete to play the position did not have to do with necessarily all to do with playing the position, but yeah, it's those guys though, and what they did in the plays they make, you can't wash them from your mind. And I think it's hard to not have them.
Yeah, LeVar was a great player. I mean, I would not have him number 1, but he wouldn't either. But phenomenal player.
Well, and Paul and Dan Connor and a couple of those guys benefited because they came back for their last years. They were able to show people what they did as seniors, where a couple of the guys we just mentioned, they didn't do that. I mean, LeVar came to Joe apparently and talked about coming back. And Joe's like, you're going to be like the first 2 picks in the draft. You can't come back. you can't do that. So he didn't get to play another year. Micah didn't get to play another year. I mean, we might be thinking about seeing those guys in a little different light too, if they would have done that.
It's tough to rank these guys too because of impact plays. Like Frank, when you said, Mike, why is Dan Connor down your list? Like for me, Dan Connor doesn't have the Paul Posluszny jumping over the line, the interception as a freshman pinned up against his helmet. But he was there day in, down in, every single time staying healthy. It's just where's one of those big plays? Obviously, he had the big sack against Ohio State. Navarro Bowman has that flick of the fumble, heads up play against Terrell Pryor in the horseshoe that year. I mean,
Navarro Bowman was the greatest. What he did better than any linebacker I've ever seen at Penn State in 31 years is anticipate running plays. He could be in the backfield on a tailback, dropping him for a loss as if he knew the play, what it was going to be called and run before it was run. Like he had anticipation for that I've never seen before.
He really blew plays up. I mean, he would do that just completely, like Frank described it. He would just blow plays up. He was something.
The play in the NFL, like he has multiple plays that he got injured on in the NFL where he stripped a guy and he recovered the fumble and then his leg got broke on the fumble. And then there was another one where I think he tore his Achilles tendon and it was right after he came back from the leg injury. I mean,
he was on his way to a Hall of Fame.
He was on his way to a Hall of Fame career. I mean, Navarro Bowman was a stud. I mean, he's as good as they get. He's great. Frank, I saw you raise your eyebrows though when I had Sean Lee at 3. Maybe I made a mistake.
No, I love Sean Lee, but I think your point is correct. If he was healthy in 2008, Tom Bradley's made mention they win the national championship, which I kind of probably agree with. I mean, look how close they were to getting there without their best defensive player, arguably. But he didn't get the play in 2008, and injuries just took from him. And I just, it's hard for me to put Sean Lee above 3 guys that are in the College Football Hall of Fame that were All-Americans, first-team All-Americans. And it doesn't always have to do with your skill, but to be that, you got to be healthy. No one's going to vote you a first-team All-American if you only play half the year.
The thing about Lee to me is that he was so good at every part of it. He was good at going forward. He was good at going backwards. He could play in space. He could play the pass. And I think it was sort of ratified when he got to the NFL how great he was when he was healthy. I mean, he did all the pieces of it. All the pieces of being a linebacker, I thought he had.
Predictions for this week, picking the score, it's kind of tough, kind of very tough. And want to give a shout out to Nevada's head coach, who I think had a great quote in a pregame interview. Coach Jeff Choate of Nevada said, "If I told my 16-year-old self that I'd someday be in the same stadium Joe Paterno coached in, I'd be pretty fired up about that. I'm excited about the opportunity, and I think the guys are as well." That's a pretty great quote. So hopefully he's not looking for anything to point out to his players about Joe Paterno in Beaver Stadium, because we know that won't be found.
Oh, that's verboten.
All right, guys, so pick the score of the game. How's this one going to fare as Penn State is a heavy favorite?
I'm going to go 48-6.
Pretty good. I think Penn State could probably score as much as they want, 55-7. And I think Penn State can cover these big point spreads because I don't think their defense is going to allow teams like Nevada, who was 3-10 last year, to put much of anything on the scoreboard.
One of the things James Franklin said yesterday, I didn't even know this, 54 new players, 54 transfers.
Good luck to Jeff Choate coming into Beaver Stadium on week 1.
Yeah, really.
I got Penn State putting up 56, anywhere giving up from 10-6 for the Nittany Lions. That's what Penn State.
We're all the same.
Pretty much. Could
they score a lot more than that, do you think?
I think if they wanted to do a Cincinnati or an Akron, as I like to refer to those games, or maybe it's Pitt, Akron, Pitt. They're the same apparently under James Franklin.
Or in Idaho?
Oh,
yeah.
Idaho. That was the one. I mean,
oh, man.
I mean, there were guys he was pulling people out of the blue band to play in that game. Yikes.
Real quick, there are 2 big games this week, Notre Dame and Miami. that have college football playoff implications, and also some game out in Columbus, Ohio. Big noon kick, gotta love it. Could be a night game. It's not. Feel for the Ohio State fans, I truly do. How do you guys see Texas and Ohio State going, number 1 versus number 3?
I would throw Clemson and LSU in there as a huge game this weekend too. But never mind. I like Texas a little.
Yeah, Arch Manning's played more than Julian Sayin or whoever they're going to use on the offense, so Texas gets the edge.
I'm picking Ohio State to win that game.
Tough to beat Ohio State in Columbus, that's for sure. I mean, Ryan Day has a tremendous record at home. It's a great game for week 1. I like that.
Ohio State's a 2.5-point favorite from what I looked up last, and Lee Corso's last broadcast for game day out there. I think Ohio State's running backs, I think are going to carry the day for Ohio State, and I think that's how they win the football game against Texas. Notre Dame over Miami. I have no confidence in Miami ever being Miami. People are like, oh, you're taking a redshirt freshman CJ Carr on the road for his first start into a top 10. Nobody goes to games at Hard Rock for Miami. So you're basically walking into a neutral site game. There'll be more Notre Dame fans.
Not the most hostile environment in college football.
Yeah. So as long as they handle the heat, I think Notre Dame comes out on top. I'll pick them 30-27.
Yeah, I definitely like Notre Dame in that spot. Yeah.
Good pick.
I left LSU and Clemson off the list because Clemson being in the ACC, I feel they're going to come out of the ACC anyway. So not really, they're kind of.
Well, probably every team we mentioned, with the possible exception of Miami, is going to be in the playoff. But
yeah, you're right. Yeah. If Miami wins, though, then I think then they'll definitely be in the college football playoff, and I'll start giving them more credence. But all right, so that does it for me this week on the Blue White Tailgate podcast. Guys, do you have anything else that we didn't cover? Kind of a long episode here.
Yeah.
No, I think we're good. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's real now. It's coming, and this could be a historic season, and I'm ready to roll.
One to be excited for, absolutely. So for Frank Bodani of the York Daily Record, Mike Gross of the Gross Rational Product, I'm Andrew Kalista, and this is the season opener of the Blue White Tailgate podcast. Signing off, I want to also thank Nathan Stupar for stopping by. We look forward to talking and chatting all season long. We'll see you next week.